We are this week wrapping up our summer mixtape series. Fortunately, I think because it's been such a beautiful journey for so many of us. It's not only nostalgic, but it's formative for us. It's giving us language as we wrestle with and listen to the kinds of things that God is teaching us. We intentionally called it Summer Mixtape Volume 1 because there are a lot of Psalms. And there are lots of conversations and lots of things I think God wants to do. And so we will revisit this series at some point in the future with some new Psalms and some new conversations. But we are wrapping up Volume 1 of our Summer Mixtape series. And we're wrapping it up this morning with a fight song, right? The kind of song that gives us the energy to fight, the confidence to fight, the invitation to fight, even when we don't have it maybe in ourselves. Because every mixtape needs a good fight song. When I was in high school, I was on the soccer team, and one of the real privileges of playing for 4 years and getting to your senior year was being able to be part of the group who put together the pre-game mixtape, right? The warm-up music, the stuff that you would kind of like think through, like this is our warm-up routine, like when these songs are playing, we're stretching or we're kicking around or we're doing all these things. And there's this very strategic process that we went through, not only just the mechanics like we've talked about through this series with the play and record and dubbing between tapes and all this, but you're making a set of songs for a very specific purpose to get you ready to fight, right? Hopefully not like fist fight, but to be ready to like really play hard, right? To really play well and to intimidate the other team, right? Because you want them to hear, you're listening to songs like about the kinds of like bodily harm that await them as they try and compete with you in this soccer game. You're putting together songs that invite audience and crowd participation, songs that, right? That just makes just for a really, really great start to any kind of soccer game or any kind of match. And so we'd be very, very strategic in the songs that we were picking, in the way that the songs were put together, the order of the songs. Because fight songs get you pumped up, right? Fight songs get you ready. They get you ready for something tough. For some of us, we have fight songs that we use when we're in the gym. It's like, when I'm tired, this is the song that I kick in when I have got to push to the very end. Or people who run great distances, they have those songs maybe they're listening to for that last push of a long run that gives you the energy and the tempo and the momentum to finish the race. These are the songs. These are the songs that give you the energy. They give you the swagger, the confidence, the fight that you may not have in you in the moment. But when that song plays, or when you hear the beginning of that song and you begin to step into it, it gets you ready to fight. It gets you ready to push through hard things. And so this morning, if you are tired of fighting, if you are always looking for a fight, if you think you're losing the fight, if you feel alone in the fight, then you need a new fight song. And the beautiful thing is we have a beautiful fight song that has been given to us. It's been preserved for us from generation to generation to generation, that God's people, He gave us this book of Psalms, the mixtape for the people of God, that Psalm 46 is a fight song. Psalm 46 is the kind of song that gives us the foundation for the push, that gives us a foundation for the moving forward despite the turmoil, despite the chaos. Psalm 46 is a fight song, but Psalm 46 starts with a promise. It begins this way: God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. And so it's a fight song, right? It's a song that gives us the energy and the push to go through the hard things, but it starts with this beautiful promise that God is our refuge, which means it's not on us to create a comfort zone that protects us from whatever might shake our lives. It's not on us to try and create the kinds of things around us to keep us from experiencing hardship and difficulties. It's not a promise that we won't experience chaos. It's not a promise that we're not going to have to go through hard things, but God is our refuge. God is our strength, which means it's not on us. it means that we will be pushed to places that are far beyond our ability to handle them, that we're going to find ourselves put in situations where God has to show up because it's beyond our capacity. God is our refuge and our strength. No promise that it's not going to require more of us than what we have in us. No promise that it's not going to shake our world, that we're not going to have to go through difficult things, but a promise that God is with us, that God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. No promise of no trouble. No promise of no tension, no promise of no turmoil or chaos or troubles that may come our way, but it's a promise of God's presence, his very present self with us in times of trouble. And so how we respond, right? This beautiful promise at the beginning of this fight song that's going to get us charged up and ready for the fight. And how we respond to this promise matters. Because the psalmist gives us this, therefore, right? Talk about response. Therefore, we will not fear. Though the earth gives way, though the mountains be moved into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble at its swelling. Therefore, we will not fear. You could put a period right there. Right? Because everything that comes after that doesn't do anything to diminish the simple fact. It doesn't say, therefore we will not fear, as long as things don't get difficult. As long as we're not pushed beyond our capacity, as long as we can rely 100% on our own strength and our own good decision making. As long as the boundary lines that we set up to make sure that we stay well within our comfort zones, as long as those things happen, we will not fear. Therefore, we will not fear. Period. Even if, right? Even if, or even when the earth gives way, though the mountains be moved into the heart of the sea, those waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble at its swelling, we will not fear, right? Nothing that comes after the therefore we will not fear does anything to diminish the force and the strength of that statement that says it doesn't matter what may come. Come what may, we will not fear because God is our refuge and our strength, our very present help in trouble. And so we have this picture of water doing its very worst things, right? Roaring and foaming and destroying the things that are around it, the things that happen to be in its path, pushing and creating chaos and turmoil all around it, shaking the mountains and pushing them into the sea and doing all the kinds of things that when we look at the possible strength and the possible impact that water can have on the world around us. That is, the psalmist looks at worst case scenarios, looks at the natural world, looks at nature and says, so when nature, as we attempt to make it through the days of our lives and we go through all of this process and we navigate and we go step by step, that the chaos that can be brought by when nature does things that just feel almost unnatural, when the water rises, when the foam and the shaking of the mountains and the mountains are pushed into the sea, we look at these moments and it's like, when this happens, even when this happens, I will not fear. Because my confidence is not in the mountains. My confidence is not in the things that seem like they might be unshakable because they just seem so big in front of me. My confidence is in the strength and in the reality that God is my refuge. And so we picture this kind of confidence that comes in God despite all of the things that may come our way. And it is beautiful. We will not fear. Come what may, God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. And so we bring with us, as we move through the rest of Psalm 46, we bring with us this picture of confidence where we say, no matter how the world is shaking, no matter how much my world is shaking, I've been given an invitation to a different kind of confidence because my confidence isn't in myself. It isn't in a refuge that I've built for myself, but it's in God as my refuge and strength. And so we bring that picture of confidence in God with us as we look at the rest of the world. And just like the psalmist, as they put pen to paper and wrote Psalm 46, looked not just at nature, not looked at the force of water and the shaking of the mountains and the roaring and the foaming and the rising of waters and all the things that they see present and active in the natural world around them. That we take that picture of confidence in God despite the shaking, despite the roaring and foaming of the waters. And we then look at the rest of the world. We look at humanity We look at the nations. We look at the way that people rise up against other people and the ways that fights begin to emerge and the conflicts that begin to emerge as we live in life like near and around people. For the psalmist, this means looking at the other kingdoms of the world, at the other nations of the world, just like it means for us looking at the same sort of thing. Because they're powerful too. Right? Nature isn't the only thing that can roar, isn't the only thing that can shake us. Nature isn't the only thing that can seem to rise up against us. And so it's with all of that in view. It's all of that in view that the psalmist gives us an invitation to look at a different way that water is at work in the world around us. It invites us to take hold of this other picture of water. Verse 4, there is a river. There is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy habitation of the Most High. God is in the midst of her, and she shall not be moved. God will help her when morning dawns. That we know that water is powerful. Right? This summer we experienced here in Spearfish really both of the pictures that the psalmist uses in Psalm 46. Right? We've had these moments where the waters within our community have risen. Right, where they have roared, where they have foamed, where they have wreaked destructive force in some of our houses and in our streets and in our neighborhoods and at our golf courses, and all these kinds of things. It was a beginning of the summer that on a rainy Friday evening, my family decided that Dough Trader pizza sounded really good to us. Right, there's good reason for that. And so my wife calls and she orders the pizza, and the person who was taking her order says, "Now, will you be able to come and pick it up?" And Julie says, "Well, yeah. I mean, we live right here in Spearfish. No problem. We'll just run over and pick up the pizza." She said, "Are you sure you're going to be able to make it?" And we're like, "Well, it's just a little bit rainy, right? It's like not that big of a deal. At least where we were in our community, wasn't like that. There wasn't much that was happening." So we get in the car and we start driving across town, right? Just as we're driving and we look in the golf course, there's just water just flowing and flowing. We're like, okay, there is more happening here than what we realized. We get downtown and the water is up to the sill, like the doors of our vehicle, and we're like, "Are you going to be able to make it?" Well, if we don't stop, I think we might make it. But if we stop, we might be in some trouble here, right? So we just keep rolling, and we get through, we get across, and we get up and we pick up our pizza, and we're like, boy, I didn't realize how what we were getting ourselves into, because we didn't experience anything like what many, many others in our community experienced. Dough Trader pizza was worth it. We probably would have driven through even deeper waters to get to it, but water, even in this community, can rise and roar and foam and be destructive. But usually the waters within our community bring life. Right? Usually the waters within our community bring just a vibrance to the community that we call home. Right? It's a place where we spend time with our family, and we spend time on the banks, and we fish, and we hike, and we do all kinds of things along the waters that bring life and vibrance to our community. And yet, there's also a picture of water as a destructive force. And I think this morning, some of us need to take hold of maybe a bigger picture of God at work, maybe a different picture of God at work, God fighting for his people, God helping us. Right? Because we can look at this picture, and maybe as we get further into Psalm 46, this will start to emerge for us a little bit more, but the picture of God as a destructive force is saying, if I can just somehow hold on or like appease God enough that he's not going to just destroy me, that the pressures that come my way and the struggles and the challenges and the forces that it seems like God can bring into the world, as long as I can just kind of like keep all of that at bay, then I can just continue to live a relatively safe existence. But as the psalmist puts pen to paper and begins to detail what life actually looks like, the way that God actually works in this world, he says, there is a river whose streams make glad the city of God. That this picture of water that comes and brings life and vibrance into a community, this picture of water that comes and deals with and in many ways washes out the things that emerge and need to be cleaned out and dealt with and then brings life to a community. God fighting for his people, God helping us. That there is more than one way to fight. These two rivers, giving two very different pictures. One that's a picture of this fight with and a destructive force. And then there's a picture of this life-giving, this life-giving work that water can do in our community. These two ways to fight, one is to fight with, and the other is to fight for. Some of us have relationships, marriages, dating relationships, friendships, family relationships, coworker relationships, neighbor relationships. And we are so used to and so braced for the first kind of fight. We're going to fight with them. And it becomes a battle of wills, and it rises up in us as we begin to approach this relationship. It's like we just keep doing the same things over and over again because we're so used to one particular kind of fight that we miss the other kind of fight. Where instead of fighting for destruction, we fight for restoration. So what would it look like? What would it look like for me to fight for you? Right, we may not agree, and we've got some like personality conflicts and all these kinds of things, but to fight for you to be made whole, to fight for this relationship. So what does it look like for this force of water, as the psalmist describes this, to bring life into this relationship? So I'm not going to just fight with you. I'm going to fight for you. I want to see you restored. What does it look like for you to be made whole and to take hold of that picture and say, so in this relationship, we're going to fight. But we're not going to fight with each other. We're going to fight for each other. We're going to fight for this relationship. We're going to fight for God's best in this relationship. We're going to fight for each other to be made whole, and we're going to celebrate as God does this work in us. Because this is how God operates. Right? God is not afraid to destroy what needs to be destroyed. God is not afraid to break what needs to be broken. God is not afraid to wash away the things that need to be washed away, but God is also in the restoration business. God is also in the business of making glad the city of God. God is also in the business of bringing life and vibrance to those who are in relationship with him. And I think so many of us, we have this one picture of a fight, this I'm going to brace for the fight, I'm going to get myself ready for the fight, that when we even put our eyes on God, that what we prepare for is just that one kind of fight. It's like, God is going to smite me, right? God is going to destroy me. That if I get on the wrong side and get in a wrong relationship in some kind of way, if I don't stay in God's good favor, then there is just no hope for me. And because we only have this one picture, that it becomes a way of not just seeing the relationships that we have and the kinds of fights that we face, but this is the only way we can imagine God fighting is by being this destructive force, and we just simply try to hold on as long as we can and trying to do everything we can to appease God. But there is another way to fight. And it's a fight that towards restoration, towards making whole. And if part of our problem is that we see God through that one lens, that one kind of fight, the other problem is that we can get so caught up in that first kind of fight. The square off against each other, the fight with each other, the do what we can to destroy each other. That we can get so caught up in that one kind of fight that we miss the opportunity for the other kind of fight. The restoration fight, the making whole fight, the fight that says, I will do everything I can. Not to fight with you, but to fight for you, to fight for this relationship, to fight for this friendship, to fight for this healthy working relationship. We get so caught up looking for the first kind that we miss the opportunity for the second. And so for some of us this morning, we need to start looking for a different kind of fight. We need to start looking for a different kind of opportunity because we live in a world that is so full of turmoil. We live in a world that is so ready to fight, that's so ready to pounce and to jump on things we don't agree with and to square off against each other and to do everything we can to destroy and push and punish each other. That we live in this world that is so wrapped up in turmoil. How? How do we not jump into the fight? How do we not find ourselves fighting the same kind of way, join in the fighting that's happening all around us? The psalmist, thousands of years ago, putting pen to paper, if they could speak to us today, they'd say, keep reading. You're not the first people who have had to struggle with being faithful in times of turmoil. You're not the first people who have struggled with how to live faithfully in times that are so divided, how to live faithfully in times where everyone is ready for a fight. To live faithfully in a world that's divided, to live faithfully in a world that's in turmoil. Verse 6, the nations rage, the kingdoms totter, he utters his voice, and the earth melts. this powerful picture of God at work in the turmoil, this powerful picture of God not turning away from the things that are broken in this world, not turning away from the chaos and the trouble of our lives, but acting, moving, working, doing a restoring work, pushing and breaking what needs to be pushed and broken, and cleaning what needs to be clean. But this picture of God at work in the turmoil. And then another promise. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. To rest in this statement that becomes a repeated refrain throughout the rest of Psalm 46. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. The psalmist continues, come, behold the works of the Lord, how he has brought desolations on the earth. That at Psalm 46 and this next piece of Psalm 46 is a series of invitations. It's a series of opportunities for us to take hold of something different, to lean into this fight song and to apply it to our lives and to take hold of it for our lives and to fight with this in view. This first invitation is to get close. When we're in turmoil, when we're in chaos, when we're experiencing hardship and we're being pushed around and beaten up and everything feels like a fight, it is so easy for us to say, God must be somewhere way over there. God must be far away from me, because why would God want to have anything to do with me? Why would God want to have anything to do with the kind of chaos that I find myself in? God is our refuge and strength and ever-present help in trouble. And we can get just a few verses later and we already begin to forget the promise that God has made, the reality of who he is. And so the psalmist says, so come close, right? Come and pay attention to what God is doing. Because it's really easy to pay attention to the storm. It's really easy to pay attention to the waters that are raging and foaming and the mountains that are shaking and the chaos and turmoil that's all around us. And the psalmist says, here's an invitation. Come and see what God is doing. Come and see for yourself God at work. Come and see for yourself God active and working in the midst of the chaos. Get close and pay attention. Pay attention to God at work. These desolations, these works of God. This picture, maybe for some of us, we come to this verse and we're like, that's what I understand about God. He destroys. God breaks things. God, when he's not happy with the way things are, begins to work this destructive force. And so I've lived my whole life in fear, and in not a healthy way, a fear of God, but a fear that God's going to step in and just wreak destruction in my life because he in some way has decided to be displeased with me. And so we see things like, come and see the desolations, these works of God. But the question is, what is it exactly that God is destroying? What exactly is God doing? What exactly are the works of his hands as it relates to the troubles and the turmoils and the chaos of our lives? What is God destroying? We keep reading. He makes wars cease to the ends of the earth. He breaks the bow. He shatters the spear. He burns the chariots with fire. That God is at work. That God is bringing an end to the fighting that we see all around us. Not that we're going to experience total peace on this side of eternity, but where there is fighting, where there is trouble, where there is turmoil and tension and wars, God is at work. That God is bringing peace. We live in a fallen world, right? All is not as God intended it to be, but God brings peace where there is fighting. And so then God speaks. In this next verse, there's quote marks around it because there's a quote from God embedded in Psalm 46. 2 sentences that are attributed to God in the midst of this conversation. And it's an invitation. God says, be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. These 2 sentences, these only 2 sentences in Psalm 46, directly attributed to God speaking. And it's an invitation to stillness, an invitation to trust. But it's not blind. It's not God unaware of the struggles and turmoils of our lives. This is God speaking, saying, be still. Right? God inviting us to confidence in him. But it's also a direct response to the two threats that the psalmist sees around them. The nations, right? People rising up against people, the kingdoms at war, the wars that are raging, and the things that are experienced because humanity is fighting. And the earth, right? Nature, when it rises up and creates chaos, when nature does things that seem unnatural, that it creates chaos and turmoil and trouble for us. And so it's not that God hasn't been paying attention. It's not that we're unseen in the midst of our troubles, in the midst of our chaos, but God says, I see you. I see the things that you're afraid of. I see your fears, your struggles, your doubts, the things that shake you when everything else is shaking. And God doesn't just say, muster up peace within yourself. Would you figure out how to be at peace? He doesn't just say, trust me. He sees them. He sees you. He sees me in turmoil and chaos. He hears our fears, and then he speaks. And he doesn't just say, just peace. He doesn't just say, like, get over it. But he invites us to confidence. Confidence in him. And so God speaks, and now we respond, just like generation upon generation upon generation of people who have followed after God, who have made Psalm 46 their fight song, who have sought to live faithfully in the generations that they find themselves in. People who have walked with God through all sorts of battles, where Psalm 46 has been the song that has carried them. People who have taken hold of Psalm 46 as their fight song. We join them, and we respond. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress, right? This repeated line throughout Psalm 46 as we learn to fight differently, as we get a new and better fight song. And this becomes then invitation number 3. God with us with God, and God as our fortress. And so the invitation this morning is actually very simple. It's wrapped up in the same sorts of invitations that we see as the psalmist put pen to paper thousands of years ago. It's an invitation to let Psalm 46 be the fight song that gives you the energy, that gives you the swagger, the confidence, the fight that you might not have in you right now. Psalm 46 is a fight song for those of us who are tired of fighting. God is our refuge and strength. It's a fight song for those of us who are always looking for a fight. Be still and know that I am God. It's a fight song for those who think we're losing the fight. The Lord of hosts is with you. The God of Jacob is your fortress. It's a fight song for those of us who feel alone in the fight. The Lord of hosts is with you. The God of Jacob is your fortress. And so the invitation is to make Psalm 46 your fight song, to look at what God has done, at the promises that God has made, the way that God speaks confidence and peace in the midst of the storm and the troubles and the turmoils and the chaos that comes our way. To make Psalm 46 your fight song, to put it on repeat, to take hold of the invitations that are embedded within the song that plays as we prepare to fight. These 3 invitations to get close and to pay attention to what God is doing, to focus on God and instead of the storms and the things that are raging all around us, to come close and to see God at work in the world around us, to be still and know that he is God, and to live in the promise of God with us and us with God. God is our fortress. And so we carry, at least the invitation is for us to carry this fight song into every battle, just like generation upon generation upon generation of people who have gone before us have carried this song into every battle. In a moment, we're going to join and we're going to sing the words of this psalm together. And for many of us, we have all sorts of battles raging. right, this is a fight song for people who are heading into battles, come what may. And so as we sing these words, as we claim these words, this fight song over the battles that we face, for many of us, this could be an opportunity for us to place before God the battles of our lives. Whether that's relationships, whether that's things that we've not yet experienced, or battles that we're currently experiencing, or things that we're scared of, or things we're worried about, or things that are shaking. Maybe it's our whole world is shaking. And we've maybe had one version of a fight song, and it hasn't gotten us through. And so in a moment, as a church, we're going to join with generation upon generation upon generation of people who have claimed this fight song. And for some of us, it's going to be an opportunity, maybe for all of us, it's going to be an opportunity to take those battles, take those fights, and say, I'm going to put those in God's hands, this one who is fighting for me. And to let the words of this song give us the confidence and the swagger and the energy that it takes to fight in the way that God is calling us to fight, to let him fight for us. Let's pray. God, thank you for your work. God, thank you for the invitation that you have given us to simply have our confidence in you. God, to trust your hand. God, to take hold of, God, your good gifts in our lives. And God, I pray that whatever battles we are facing, God, the struggles and the turmoils and the tensions that just are part of life, God, I pray that we'd fight well. God, that our fight song would point to you. Our fight song would lead us to fix our eyes on you and to trust you and find our confidence in you. God, thank you for giving us a fight song that says that you are our refuge. God, that you are our strength. God, you are our ever-present help in trouble. God, thank you for your Son, Jesus Christ, who is the fulfillment of all of these promises. God, who is the great invitation of our lives. God, we pray this in his name. Amen.